Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, welcome back to Derby, a city with passionate opinions about what Britain should look like after Brexit. In 2016, just over 57% of the city voted to leave the EU. Now, today we are asking people here if they still expect to get what they voted for. We've been outside in Cathedral Square for the morning. It is absolutely blowing a hoolie out there now, so we've moved inside temporarily into the cathedral just to stay dry with our People's Panel. Let me introduce them. We've got Helen Selloway, who owns a restaurant in the city. She voted to remain in the European Union, but is disappointed at how she sees the UK has been treated, and she also wants a deal. John Williams is in car rental sales. He too voted remain and says that no deal would be a disaster, and he would like a people's vote. David Adams is a retired plumber. He voted to leave the EU and believes that Theresa May hasn't been tough enough during the negotiations. And on the end, we've got John Lawson, who's a retired finance director. He also voted leave and thinks that we should leave the EU without a deal. Just briefly, all of you, Helen, starting with you, why did you vote the way you did? Why did you vote remain?
I wasn't convinced that it was going to be, excuse me, a lot better to actually leave. And I wasn't convinced that it was that bad anyway. You know, better the devil you know.
OK. John, why did you vote remain?
Being in Derby, we live under the shadow of the Rolls-Royce factory and the Toyota factory, and I feared for the massive job losses that could occur there. And since then, I feel I've been vindicated with my views, because many jobs have been announced to be moving from their factories in Derby to other facilities in Germany and other parts of Europe as well.
So better the devil you know and the local industry. David, why did you vote to leave?
Yes, to take back control of our laws, our borders and our money. It was a binary choice, in or out, and that's what we want.
And John, why did you vote to leave?
Well, same again, really. I voted to leave to take back control, to repatriate all of our democracy to people that we directly vote for in the House of Parliament.
So let's stay with you two leavers at the end there for the time being. And David, what was it about the EU? You know, you said in terms of regulation and taking back control. What was it about the EU that had affected your life that you felt you weren't in control of?
Democracy. We were lacking in democracy. We were being dictated to by silly things like our food. You know, you have to have straight bananas and all this silly stuff. And but that's simplifying it. But it's more deeply, it's the democracy.
Was there anything that you felt in your life that, you know, obviously you'd been a plumber, you know, you'd obviously worked, you know, your own business, worked with people. Were there any EU regulations that you felt really affected your life?
It was more on the democratic side of things, so that our MPs directly respect our wishes, instead of it having to sort of go through the European Parliament. And you take the money side of things, they got a silly situation where they, because of the French, they moved Parliament to Strasbourg and then back to Brussels. Just a waste of money. So that's just one instance. There's lots of other things where money is wasted.
And John, you too saying this was about democracy?
It was about, yeah, exactly, repatriating those lawmaking activities to people that we vote directly for every few years in a general election, as opposed to the European elections that virtually nobody takes part in. Nobody who can name their European Member of Parliament.
Not many people. We've asked lots of people on Sky News that question. Not many can. John Williams, come back to you here down at this end. You were a Remainer. You were interjecting there over David and saying that the bendy bananas thing wasn't true.
It's not. We haven't had any regulations imposed against us against the will of the UK Parliament by the EU. And additionally, hearing the word democracy used to promote Brexit, it really grinds against me, because it was a democratic vote, but it was not democratic. It was covered by lies, covered by scaremongering around immigration, scaremongering around
But we've had that in both ways.
But
we've had the scaremongering.
According to no, that's not true. But only one was found to be in contempt of the law. And if you remember the Leave campaign, have you seen all the documents about saying Nissan, Toyota, Jaguar Land Rover, all of those are going to stay. All of those have announced job cuts.
But Mark Carney's backpedaling now on...
Mark Carney is the reason why we didn't fall into a massive recession immediately. He's being blamed for the recession, the damage which has been caused, but he did immediate action that helped to mitigate that, and he is the reason why we didn't fall into the massive recession which was predicted in one of the 5 examples of the Treasury paper, which is constantly used as market project.
The Japanese car manufacturers are backpedaling purely because of the new EU agreement that's coming. Excuse me, let me get a word in. Because of the new EU agreement with Japan, which makes free trade available from 2020.
That means they will be importing tariff-free to the UK, and if we leave under no deal as you wish, we will be facing 10% tariffs.
Let's let Helen get a word in, because you haven't had a chance yet.
It's not very often,
No. So we know why you voted to remain, but what do you think is the best way forward now?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the sooner the better. Whatever happens, we have a pain...
So not an extension?
No, I want it done. Ideally, I want a deal. But whatever happens, there is a pain to go through. Let's get that pain over and done with. We're all going to be affected in one way or another. So the sooner we can get through that, get back to normal, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
So would no deal be better than an extension for you if you want a solution by the end of March?
I think it probably would at the moment, because I'm just so appalled at the way the Europeans have behaved over the whole thing towards us. It's almost made me slightly change I would still vote to remain, but it's almost made me change my thoughts on how I'd vote.
And what about you in that sense, John? I mean, have you reflected since the vote and looked at how the negotiations have gone and thought, actually, maybe we might be better off out?
No, I don't. I think the reason why the EU is so constantly blamed for being so intransigent and so resistive to our demands is because our demands are impossible. You can't cut freedom of movement and still have an open border. You can't impose tariffs and still have an open border in Northern Ireland where people and trade and goods can move freely. It's just impossible. Brexit was sold. It cannot be delivered. The only way to end it quickly is to just be done with it, have a people's vote, get out,
But we voted to leave.
We voted to leave
we
5 years ago. Sorry, 3 years ago.
And that has to be respected.
Democracy does not end in the ballot box in a vote that takes 5 years to enact, but was based on lies, Cambridge Analytica, and vote manipulation.
Right, John.
We voted to leave, and it has to be respected.
So
and the only way to go is to leave on the 29th. It's the law at the moment.
Absolutely.
It's what the people want. The vast majority of the people want. There's an online survey done by Martin Lewis last week. 179,000 people took part in this online survey. Martin Lewis is probably one of the most neutral people on Brexit. 64% said that they wanted a no-deal Brexit.
But if you actually
the people
look at the polls
want
operated
to leave.
by professional polling operations like Comres, YouGov, all of the others, consistently since the start of 2017, they have said that people want to remain.
We had a local poll by the Chamber of Commerce just here that they released to us on Sky News today, and talking to local businesses, 41% either wanted a deal or to extend time. 16% wanted no deal, and that's local businesses here in the Derby area. 45% wanted another referendum. And you think that would be undemocratic?
But they're not representative of the people. They're business people.
No, they're representatives of local businesses,
and,
We're talking about the economy.
Like I say, this was 179,000 people that took part in this online survey over a 2-day period, I think it was, and 64% voted to leave, as opposed to the other option, which was to delay Brexit.
And very, very briefly, David, how do you feel Theresa May's performed over this?
Well, she's been hamstrung by the Remain MPs, who I think are most undemocratic people there are. They should have all got behind our negotiators when they went to Brussels, and we wouldn't be in this situation we are if they had have done. We should have gone as one voice and come up with because Brussels only know one thing, and that's to spin it out as long as they can, hoping that we will remain.
Well, getting some nods across the panel for that, so a certain amount of consensus on that point. But thank you all very much indeed. So this is our first People's Panel in Derby. We've got another one coming up in the next couple of hours. We're going to be talking to a business panel as well with a couple of business leaders and also some other people from this part of the world. And don't forget, we're going to be coming back to Derby between now and the 29th of March to see how this city is faring, seen as a bit of an economic bellwether, seen how it is coping in the run-up to Brexit. Back to you, Adam.
Thank you very much indeed, Jane.